Hello Tashidalai, I hope all of you are doing very well. Welcome to Dharma sharing after the long gap, almost 5 months since we last stopped teaching from Gampopa's book called Jewel Ornament of Liberation. And as we are living in interesting time now because of this pandemic, obviously it is not easy for all of us, but at the same time, even though it is not so comfortable, but we can still live our life with different means. And one of the perfect way of living at this kind of difficult situation is to pay more attention towards internal strength and internal growth of spiritual. So therefore this opportunity that we have now is quite precious, and since we are aware of the teachings of the Buddha, that everything is the nature of impermanence, so therefore we cannot project, or we cannot imagine what things will come next. So since this is the nature of impermanence, so what we should do is we should do according to it. We should find means according to the situation, and we need to do what we can in order to protect ourselves from suffering and the cause of suffering, and at the same time do whatever we can possible to help others and to be happy for ourselves and others. So this pandemic has given us an opportunity to spend some time while things are not so busy, and to focus more on the internal strength, the development of internal strength, and particularly these wonderful instructions by Lord Gampopa in his book called Jewel Ornament of Liberation. So when he first introduced this book, he did mention that in general all phenomena can be categorized into two, that is known as samsara and nirvana. Samsara is the state of confusion and nature of suffering. Nirvana, on the other hand, is the freedom from the confusion state of mind, and as a result of that, it is the nature of free from suffering, or in other words, it is the happy nature. So where are we now? We are in the state of confusion state of mind. So therefore we are now in samsara, and where we should be looking at, or where is our destination, is the nirvana. So we should walk according to the instructions of the Buddha and all the wonderful teachers in order to reach that destinations of permanent happiness. So that's our main goal as being the follower of the Buddha, as being called as a Buddhist or studying Buddhism. So we should not forget that this is our aim and our goal, to be able to free ourselves from the suffering of samsara and the cause of suffering of samsara. And how can we free ourselves from the suffering of samsara is by following the path that has shown to us by Buddha himself, and followed by wonderful lineage masters and your road guru up to now, who has been very kindly showing us these instructions, so that if we implement them, if we follow this wonderful path, there's no doubt that we'll be able to liberate ourselves from the suffering of samsara, right? So therefore we are now trying to focus that. So I've been told that the Malaysian government has imposed a second round of lockdown. So therefore, since you have some time, it is good opportunity that we should we can continue this teaching, this dharma sharing, because if we start something, we need to conclude that task. Otherwise, it will be incomplete mission, incomplete tasks. So therefore, since we have started it, so we need to continue whenever possible. So obviously you are living in a developed country where you are where your time is more demanded by different activities. So therefore, it is not always easy for you to be able to have time to focus on internal growth of internal understanding of the Dharma or spiritual path, your own spiritual path. But every time, whenever possible, whenever you have time, free time, you should not hesitate paying interest and diligence in the practice of the Dharma. So the Dharma practice itself is a very important task, because it is the antidote or the remedy to heal our pain and sufferings. So obviously we all want to free ourselves from the pain and sufferings. That's our nature, and we always enjoy in the happiness and joyfulness state of mind. We do not wish or wonder to suffer. So since we all share the same goal of being happy, not being suffering, therefore we should not hesitate in implementations of that path that will lead us to that permanent happiness. So this is one of the reasons why we are trying to understand or trying to listen to these teachings from Gampopa. And as you remember, we need to recall, he summarized these whole teachings into 6 different points. Point 1, that is the primary cause. Point number 2, that is the working basis. Point number 3, that is the contributory cause, of our in the practice of the Dharma. And point number 4, and that is the method. And point number 5, that's the result. And point number 6, that is the activity. So what is the point number 1, the primary cause, and that is known as the Buddha nature. So if someone who would like to free themselves from the suffering of samsara, then if they doubt that is that even possible, and the Gampopa said, yes, definitely it is possible, because you have the potential, you have the cause. That is the Buddha nature that is present in within all sentient beings. So therefore, since you have this potential, that you have this primary cause, definitely if you plan that cause, if you focus on that cause and bring all the cause and conditions together, there's no doubt that you'll be able to free yourself from the suffering of samsara, since you have this potential or the primary cause. Then the second point is the working basis. So if you have this cause, then what should be the working basis for that cause? And then among the 6 different realms, the perfect realm or the working basis is the precious human body. So that's the second, which we already have obtained. You recall the qualities of why it is called precious human body. What are the qualities that should be there in order to call it the precious human body? That's the working basis. Then the third part, the cause or the point is the contributory cause. So yes, you have the potential, you have the root cause. Yes, you have obtained the working basis as well, but we simply do not know how to plant that seed to bring that seed into fruition. So for that reason, we need a complement kind of supporting cause, and that is known as your spiritual master, the someone who has gone on that path, or someone who has experienced that result, or someone simply knows how to go to that follow that path. So that is the spiritual masters, all the masters in our lineage, as well as up to your root guru or your own root guru, root master. So you have You need to have these teachers, otherwise even though you have this cause and working basis, and then you don't know how to, you have no direction at all, no guidance, no directions, then you'll end up reaching nowhere, and you'll be wasting that primary cause and the precious human body as a working basis if you do not have guidance and proper directions from the spiritual masters. That is why that point is also very important. And then the point 4 is the method how one can achieve complete happiness, and how one can free ourselves from the suffering of samsara. And that is the instructions from that spiritual master. So that just how you can attend spiritual master is not just by staying with him or her, or just by paying homage and having faith and devotion towards that spiritual master. That is not enough. So what we really need is the instruction itself, the instructions that our spiritual master bestowed upon us. So we need to implement. We need to hear the teachings first, the instructions, and secondly we need to contemplate on the meaning of those beautiful instructions that we receive from our spiritual masters. We need to examine ourselves. We need to use our logic to make it kind of reasonable, relevant, and if you have this, then it will give us kind of confidence and belief in that instructions, and then you will have developed joyfulness in the practice of the following that instructions and practice of the Dharma. So that is very, very important, the method itself. Without applying method, your spiritual masters cannot purify your sins, purify your shortcomings or wrongdoings or non-virtuous act. As Buddha himself said that only the instructions that he has shared, if you follow only the instructions that Buddha have shared, then you will be able to reach that goal, the final destination, that is Buddhahood. Otherwise, Buddha and Bodhisattvas, they cannot purify your sins or shortcomings or your suffering by pouring water on your crown or by placing his hand on your crown. That's not possible at all. So therefore, following instructions of your spiritual master is very, very necessary and important. So then the point number 5 is the result. That if you follow the instructions that you receive from your guru diligently, then definitely the result is waiting at the other side of the path. So your destination is there. So there's the guarantee of reaching to that final destination if you really walk on to that path diligently. Then that's the result itself, the Buddhahood, attainment of Buddhahood. Then the point number 6 is the activity. So what after receiving or after realizations of that ultimate result, then obviously you will be benefiting others, those who are still under who are still overpowered by negative afflictions and emotions, defilements. So you generate kind of loving kindness and compassion towards all those beings who are still under the state of confusion, who are still under the state of ignorance, not knowing the path and bhumis, not knowing the instructions how to follow the path, not having realizations of the ultimate nature of emptiness, or even not having the realizations of the truth of suffering and the truth of cause of suffering and so forth. So with that compassion, with that loving kindness and compassion, you will be able to benefit, you will be able to do something beneficial for the well-being of others. So that concludes the whole teaching in this book called Jewel Ornament of Liberation by Gampopa. Okay, so that's very important to recall. And next is well, we have this primary cause, the Buddha nature, the potential, Yes, we have obtained the second point, that is the precious human body. Yes, we have met our spiritual masters, we have attended our spiritual masters. Yes, we have received the teachings from our spiritual masters. But we have not reached to the fifth point, that is the result. And why is it so? You may have doubt there. And why we are still in samsara then? If we have this cause and working basis and contributory cause and all the methods, the very reason that Gampopa shared here, he said there may be 4 possibilities, 4 different reasons why we are still in samsara, why we are still under the state of delusion, why we are still in this state of confusion or confusion state of mind. He said first reason he has given is that it is because we are too attached to this life's activity, or we are too busy making our life, we are too busy making our education, we are too busy making our fulfilling our needs, accomplishments. So therefore we have not given any value or time for the to deal with the origin of suffering. We have never spent any time how to deal with and how to tackle our negative afflictions and emotions, how to deal with our origin of suffering. Therefore, even you have instructions there, that's just there. You have not really implemented or applied those teachings. That's why you are still in samsara. All your focus and attentions and diligence and efforts has been paid attention towards the external value of form, sound, smell, taste and texture. This is why we are still in samsara. We have never taken time to investigate our internal value. We have never thought about why we are in this samsara at the first place. And we have never thought why we die, why we can't live in this samsara after we take a birth. Why is there time limitation? Why our things that we are attached so much disappears? Why our friends and family members depart from ourselves? Why these things happens? We have never paid any attention to these things. All our effort were meant for external activities, external value. So this is one of the possibilities, that we are still stuck in suffering of samsara, experiencing the suffering of samsara. And then second reason Gampopa did mention was, and the second reason is by being attached to the pleasure of samsara. Then first one was the importance being attached to this life's activity, just particular life of particular realm. The second reason was more greater, because of our attachment towards the pleasure of samsara. We may think that yes, I will die. I die now, but then I can have another human life. I can still enjoy this, pay attention towards this life's activity, importance of this life activity. I can still take rebirth in human realm or God realm, and I can still enjoy my life there. So, and Gampopa says this is also another one of the obstacles that we are still stuck in samsara, that we are not able to overcome this suffering, because we have not generated renunciation from the samsara. We still like samsara so much. That's why we create different types of cause and conditions for that. we're too happy celebrating suffering of samsara, pleasure of samsara, which in fact, in actuality, this pleasure, so-called pleasure, is Buddha said this so-called pleasure itself is also suffering, the suffering of change, remember? Yes. So not knowing this fact, not having the power of discriminating knowledge, therefore we are still stuck in the suffering of samsara. Then third reason Gampopa mentioned was maybe we are too attached to the peace of nirvana. There are some individuals who are diligent enough, who has renounced suffering of samsara, who have attained some level of serenity or meditative state of mind, who are enjoying in the peaceful state of mind. And then for those individuals who are stuck in that nirvana, the site of happiness, which they think that is the permanent happiness, which they believe that that is the final destination, but then yet Buddha said that is also another obscuration there, by not really discriminating whether that is the permanent happiness or the temporary happiness, permanent realization or temporary realizations. So therefore, if you are too attached to the pleasure of nirvana or the peace of nirvana, then you just rest there, that very deep meditative state of mind, scrutiny of mind. And if that happens, then that's better than the earlier reasons, but yet then it is like inactive mode of realization. You are not benefiting anyone else other than yourself, just remaining in that very peaceful state of mind, meditative state of mind for a very long time. So Buddha encouraged us to awake from that attachment in the peace of nirvana, but then work for the benefit of all sentient beings. So that is one of the possibilities there. This is what Gampopa mentioned. And the fourth reason what Gampopa gave was maybe we do not know the method how to cultivate loving kindness and compassion, how to follow these 5 different paths. What are you simply may have no knowledge about the attainment of paths and bhumis, how this path and bhumis work. What are the different meditative state of mind, the meditative state of mind of kama dhatu, rupa dhatu and arupa dhatu, all these 3 spheres of samsara. So by not knowing the method, that is another reason why we are still stuck in samsara, even though we have this precious the root cause of Buddha nature and precious human body and attending spiritual master, but simply if you do not know what are the method that lead us to the perfections of happiness, and then there may be one of the reasons why we're stuck in this suffering of samsara. Okay, so among all these reasons we are now at the fourth reason, not knowing the method of enlightenment. So we are trying to understand what are those methods that lead us to perfect and complete enlightenment. So in this Gampopa did mention from very beginning taking refuge in the 3 jewels, and then followed by generating loving kindness and compassion and generations of bodhicitta and so on and so forth, and followed by working in different the understanding of 6 paramitas, and then understandings of the 5 paths and 10 bhumis and so on and so forth. So these are all there under this category. So why is this instructions of by Gampopa in this book of Jewel Ornament Liberations very important? Is because this teaching is kind of a package of Buddha's whole teaching. It will teach us from the very beginning. Some individual who would like to practice the Dharma, who would like to enter into the gate of the Dharma, that particular being will be able to understand by beginning from taking in a refuge in three jewels, then followed by generations of loving kindness and compassion, then followed by generations of Bodhichitta, Aspiration Bodhichitta, and Action Bodhichitta, and what are the trainings in the Aspirations and Engaged Bodhichitta, and then what are the different paths and bhumis, all this until when one reaches the perfect and full enlightenment. And then not only stops there, but then after attainment of perfect enlightenment, how one benefits all sentient beings. So therefore, it is a kind of complete set of teaching. And also it also gives us a reason why we can achieve enlightenment, because it said at the very beginning that we do have this potential. We are not mistaken, we are not confused, we are not trying to take oil from sand or stone. We are trying to extract oil from sesame seed. We are trying to bring enlightenment from Buddha nature, the primary cause. And also we have this working basis as a precious human body. So therefore it is very possible. Okay, so last time we have we stopped at cultivations of bodhicitta, and today we are going to talk about the trainings of bodhicitta. Trainings of bodhicitta in aspiration, trainings of bodhicitta of engage, or trainings in the aspiration bodhicitta and trainings in engage bodhicitta. We now know what is bodhicitta, right? Bodhicitta is a very pure motivation or pure genuine wish or desire, if you want to use that word, to attain enlightenment. Wish to attain enlightenment, perfect and complete enlightenment, not the kind of enlightenment or nirvana of arhats and particular Buddhas, but complete and perfect enlightenments of Buddhahood. A pure motivation or a pure wish to attain enlightenment, complete and perfect enlightenment, for the benefit of all sentient beings. So there's two objectives. One is to attain perfect and complete enlightenment, and second, and that very attainment of enlightenment is dedicated for the well-being of others, or in other words, second objective is the benefit of others, or others' benefit. You are trying to attain enlightenment for the others' benefit. So therefore it's not kind of self-centered motivation, rather it is more greater and open mind, the pure motivations of genuine wish to benefit all sentient beings. So that is bodhicitta. And we know that there are two bodhicittas, aspirations and engaged bodhicitta. We are now talking about relative bodhicitta. Okay, and now we are trying to understand, after generating aspiration bodhicitta, what are those trainings that we need to implement. So I'll try to read first, then we try to understand the meaning. Chapter 10, Training in Aspiration Bodhicitta. After cultivating bodhicitta, there are two types of training: training in aspiration bodhicitta and in action bodhicitta. So that's the same as I mentioned earlier. The first one, training in aspiration bodhicitta, and the summary of that is not forsaking sentient beings from one's heart. That is one. So there are 5 different type of trainings in aspiration bodhicitta, and among these 5 different types of trainings in aspiration bodhicitta, the first one is not forsaking sentient beings from one's heart. That means since when you give rise to bodhicitta, you said that I would like to attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Remember, all sentient beings, not some sentient beings, not for your family and friends, but you have dedicated for the benefit of all sentient beings. So you set your commitment was benefiting all sentient beings, but then in action, if you forsake one sentient being, and that is that's not good, right? That's not advisable. That doesn't match with your intention. So therefore, if you forsake sentient beings from your heart, then that is, I think that's breaking your bodhicitta, aspiration bodhicitta. So therefore, we should not, that's why it says in the training, not forsaking sentient beings from one's heart. Second training is recollecting the beneficial effects of bodhicitta. So obviously you have given rise to bodhicitta, but then since we are still ordinary being, you need to recollect the beneficial effects of bodhicitta every now and then. That way, it will, support your aspiration bodhicitta. That way, you will not forsake sentient beings. So it's very advisable. It's a good training that one should always recollect the beneficial effects of bodhicitta. Then you are more interested. You keep going, keep moving with that joyfulness, because you know the very good beneficial effects of bodhicitta. It helps in a larger being. So that is why it's important. Then the third training is the gathering of two accumulations. So what are those two accumulations? The first one is accumulations of merits. That is by listening to the teachings of the Dharma, recitations of the sutras or prayers, or practicing generosity, giving help to those who are in need of, and then also doing purification parts and circumambulations of the stupas and frustrations, and offering incense and flowers to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and giving food and clothing and shelter, if possible, to those people who are in need of help. So these are all the means of accumulations of good merits. Then we have the next one, which is more important in order to achieve complete enlightenment, is the accumulations of wisdom. And that accumulations of wisdoms, should come through meditation. Otherwise, there's not other possibilities. So the accumulations of wisdom should focus, should give rise within the base of good samadhi meditation. That's very important. That's what sometimes not as discriminating knowledge or primordial wisdom. So that's very important. So we need to, after giving rise to aspiration bodhicitta, we should always engage in, we should be always busy engaging in the accumulations of two accumulations. That is what we are advised to do, what we are encouraged to do. Then the fourth training is the practicing the enlightened mind repeatedly. Practicing the enlightened mind repeatedly means taking aspirations bodhicitta for many times, or simply reciting those aspiration bodhicitta vows, prayers every now and then. Therefore you're repeating the enlightened mind, practicing the enlightened mind repeatedly. Because there's the since we are ordinary being, there's always a risk that we may in our day-to-day life we may forsake sentient beings. We even though we call ourselves a bodhisattva, after giving rise to aspirations bodhicitta, we may have encounter not liking someone's behavior. When we practice generosity, sometimes we are hurt. We didn't like the other people's attitude, the receiver's attitude. You supposed to be the giver, right? After giving rise to bodhicitta, you're supposed to be giver. You're supposed to have a open mind, a compassionate mind. So you're supposed to be a benefactor for all those sentient beings. But having said that, sometimes you encounter difficulties, disturbance. So therefore, you should always encourage yourself. You should repeatedly take aspiration bodhicitta vows again and again. So that's what it means by training in practicing the enlightenment repeatedly. And finally, the fifth training is accepting the 4 virtues and rejecting the 4 non-virtues. So these are there in detail later on. So these are the 5 different types of trainings of aspiration bodhicitta. Okay? These 5 comprise the training in aspiration bodhicitta. The first one is the method of not losing bodhicitta. So the first training, not forsaking sentient beings, is the method not losing bodhicitta. Second one, which is recollecting the beneficial effects of bodhicitta, is the method by which bodhicitta does not weaken. It will get more advanced, more powerful, more stronger. The third, that is the gathering of 2 accumulation, training in gathering of 2 accumulation, is the method of increasing the strength of bodhicitta. If you implement that, if you implement of accumulations, 2 accumulations, that is the way or method increasing the strength of bodhicitta. Your bodhicitta will be more stable, more firm, more stable, more deepened. So therefore, this is very, very advice. These are all good advice, good trainings that one should engage with. The fourth reason, the fourth training, that is practicing the enlightened mind repeatedly, is the method of deepening bodhicitta. Every now and then, if you remember the importance of bodhicitta, if you try to take bodhicitta before every sessions of your practice, it can be your practice of meditation, practice of listening the teachings of the Dhamma, or practice of the contemplation. Okay, so you repeatedly take bodhicitta vows. That is the reason why it is important to do so. And the fifth one is the method for not forgetting bodhicitta, accepting the 4 virtues and rejecting the 4 non-virtues. That is the method for not forgetting bodhicitta. So these are the trainings in aspirations bodhicitta. Okay. So there's the detailed definitions of each of the trainings. So I'll just read them out. The first one, not forsaking sentient beings from one's hurt. First, the training is not forsaking sentient beings from one's heart is the method for not losing bodhicitta, as is mentioned earlier. The Naga King Anabhattata Requested Sutra said, the bodhisattva who possesses one quality holds all the excellent qualities of the Buddha. Bodhisattva who holds one quality holds all the qualities of the Buddha. And what is that one quality? You may wonder, because it sounds so good, isn't it? Okay, and that is, what is that one quality? That is the mind which does not forsake anyone from one's heart. The mind that does not forsake anyone from one's heart. That particular being who is practicing the Dharma, who is practicing, who is practicing generosity, he or she will never forsake any individual from receiving his generosity. If someone is making dedication, that particular will not forsake any individuals from receiving that dedication, so to speak. So that's why, if you have this mind of not forsaking sentient beings, or if you value and respect all other sentient beings, then that is not forsaking sentient beings, and that is the training in aspirations bodhicitta. Okay, suppose someone acts unfavorably towards you in the practice of the generosity. If someone do not act favorable to you, or if someone does not show you gratitude of what you are doing, if someone do not give you good feedback, if someone do not give you kind of good feeling of what you are doing, obviously you think that obviously you are doing good things. Generosity, practice of generosity is very good thing. Even though it is very good thing to do, you may encounter findings, someone who do not like your practice of generosity, who do not like the things that you share. Obviously there's possibilities. So when that happens, that is the time there's a risk of forsaking sentient beings, or or being hurt by the attitude of that particular being from the receiver point of view. So Gampopa also mentioned here, he said, suppose someone acts unfavorably towards you and you adopt an attitude of distance from that person and have no concern for them. Obviously, you, by being practitioner of Mahayana vehicle and generating bodhicitta, if someone kind of acts unfavorably towards you, you will not fight back, because that's not what you do, right? As being a Mahayana polar of the Mahayana vehicle, you will not counteract. But what you may do is then you will keep distance. You don't want to meet that people after that. You kind of keep distance and you walk away from that particular being, and that's very possible, isn't it? So even though in the practice of bodhicitta, even though you cannot do that, if you do that, then that is considered as forsaking sentient beings, because you have invited all sentient beings as your guests when you give rise to bodhicitta, isn't it? So you should not pay attention towards what they do to you. You should not have acceptance. You should not have kind of conditions. We generate bodhicitta without any preconditions, without any exception. We dedicated our generosity towards all sentient beings equally, no matter what their attitude towards you is, no matter how they speak to you, or no matter how they show their attitude to you. That doesn't really matter, because we, as a bodhisattva, as a practitioner of Mahayana vehicle, our important is to benefit sentient beings. Not our actual motivation is to benefit others. Give them. Our attitude is to giving them, not receiving from them. So therefore, we should encourage ourselves, to have this patience. And even if you are bodhisattva, then there's instructions, bodhisattva instructions. Some bodhisattva instruction says, if you encounter this kind of particular being who do not, rejoice in your good deeds, or who do not show you the same attitude that you show to them, who act unfavorably to you, then even then we should think them as your only son who is suffering from different disease. And then at that time, even you have to show more compassion towards that particular being, because that particular being is acting in this way because of his ignorance or her ignorance, because he or she is overpowered by negative afflictions and emotions. So those individuals, who are overpowered by negative afflictions and emotions, you as a bodhisattva, you as a mother of all other sentient beings, should pay more attention toward those individuals, those children who are suffering more, who have that bad attitude. Even for them, you have to give rise to compassion more stronger than the other individuals. So this is what it means by here. And if you have that attitude, if you have that thinking, motivation, then the unfavorable attitude of that particular being will not affect you. It will have no power to remorse your good deeds. It will have no power to kind of break your aspiration bodhicitta. Then you will not forsake sentient beings, which is very good, which is advisable as a training in the aspiration bodhicitta. Okay. Even if there were a chance to help that person in the future, you would refuse to do so. Like, that is possible. That's the risk there. So if someone shows unfavorable act to you, then you want to keep distance. Then slowly in the future, if there's a possibility of helping or benefiting them, you will just not go forward. So that's the risk there. Even if a time comes to protect that person from harm, you would refuse to do it. So these are all the risks that you may encounter. So therefore you have to be very careful, and you have to again generate more compassion toward those beings who are overpowered by negative afflictions and emotions. This is called, so if you do so, if you keep distance and not benefit them in the future when there's a possibilities of benefiting them, and not protecting them in the future when there's a possibilities of protecting them from harms, then that is what is known as the forsaking sentient beings. Furthermore, what is meant by forsaking sentient beings? Does it mean all sentient beings or just one? So Gampopa give one kind of doubt there. Even hearer, and the answer is even hearer and solitarily realizers will not forsake all sentient beings, neither will the hawk and the wolf. Therefore, if one forsakes even one being and does not apply the antidotes within a session, then bodhicitta is lost. So therefore, it is important that we should not forsake sentient beings. But even if we do so, we should apply the antidote. We should after that moment, you should give rise to antidote, or saying of I should not have done that. This is not right. My compassion was not enough or not powerful enough. So you just make purifications and again generate bodhicitta. Give rise to aspiration bodhicitta one again. So then you're okay. So this is how Gampopa encourage us to in the progress of our bodhicitta, keeping the bodhicitta alive, training in the aspiration bodhicitta. It is completely unreasonable to forsake sentient beings from your heart while being called a bodhisattva and maintaining other training. For example, this is like killing one's only child and then accumulating wealth on his behalf. So like this. So when you call bodhisattvas, or when you at least try to become bodhisattvas and follow bodhicitta, give rise to bodhicitta, you should not even think about forsaking sentient beings. You should think of all sentient beings as equal, and all sentient beings as your kind of object of making generosity, object of your dedication. So therefore you should not forsake any sentient beings, any individuals. And if something that happens in your heart, that you want to distance them, that you don't want to help them, that you don't want to protect them in the future because of his attitude towards you at the first place, then that is what is known as forsaking sentient beings, and it is very risk. It will break your aspirations bodhicitta. Then slowly you forsake one sentient being today, and 2 tomorrow, and 5 next week. Then slowly you'll be forsaking more sentient beings. Then that is not bodhicitta at all. That is not act of the bodhisattvas at all. So therefore we should be careful. Of course, one will not give up this attitude towards those beings who are benefiting oneself. But there's the danger of giving it up regarding those who harms you. To them especially, one should cultivate compassion and make efforts to bring them benefits and happiness. Obviously, when even we are practitioners, even in our Dharma practice, if we hear something good feedback from others, definitely we feel happy, isn't it? So there's no possible to forsake those beings who praise you, who rejoice in your good deeds, who will give you a good feedback, isn't it? But if you are kind of attached towards that is like doing business in one sense. You do something good and you expect something back. That's the ordinary samsaric way of doing things. But in dharmic term, especially in bodhisattvas, the practice of bodhicitta, where we are not encouraged to do this. We should act as all sentient beings, as equal, and we should not expect anything in return. What we need to do is we just dedicate good merits. We just dedicate our for the well-being of others. So therefore it is not give and take kind of style of doing things. So therefore, obviously, if someone's good to you, you will not have the risk of forsaking that being. But those who are not good at you, those who are not showing good attitude towards you, then there's a risk of losing them from your list of individual sentient beings, so to speak. And the tradition of the noble one, it said that when harm has been done in returns of good deeds, even then it is to be answered by great compassion. So here, this is very powerful, I think. When harm has been done in return for good deeds. So I think many of us, we experience this, right? Our teacher encouraged us to be patient, to be more kind and compassion, and then we take this seriously and we try to implement this in our day-to-day life, with our colleagues, in our office, in our whatever occupation we are involved in. We try to bring that good instructions in our day-to-day life. But then many times other people will not understand this, and that is why some take advantage of your compassion. Obviously it happens. So this is not always easy, remember. But if you are bodhisattvas, you always should be positive, always feel positive about others, and always have the courage to forgive others. And by seeing them as overpowered by negative afflictions and emotions, by seeing them as overpowered by ignorance, so you should be more kinder than ever. So that's why it says here, when harm has been done in return for good deeds, even then it is to be answered by great compassion. That is the way of bodhisattvas. Isn't this wonderful? Isn't this amazing? And this, from the samsaric point of view, it looks like you lose, but then in actuality you have never lost anything. You have gained your peace of mind. You have gained from implementing the non-virtuous act as a counteract for that action. So you are free from all those, and there is actually real gain, even though it looks like a loss from the worldly point of view, but it is gain from the spiritual point of view. The excellence being of this world return a good deeds for an evil one. So this is what bodhisattva should do. This is what bodhicitta is about. Okay, so we'll stop here for today, and we'll continue in next session about remaining 4 trainings of aspiration bodhicitta. So we do the dedication prayers. We dedicate these merits by listening and sharing the Dharma for the benefit of all sentient beings. May this pandemic subside. May all beings, have the happiness and cause of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. Sonam de damje zigba nye tomne nye be dhanam pamje ne gega naje balav droba Sibe zole drowa drowarai sho jambel bae jidra gemba dan kundo zangbo deyang deshindo Teda gunge jeso da lob jenge wa de da damje rabdo